Hey, good morning, friends. Welcome to the show today. It is a special show. Picture this. It's August 7th, 2023, and the ground is already moving under our feet. ChatGPT has gone from quirky research demo to cultural phenomenon, opening the public floodgates just months before. Google Bard is no longer in cautious pilot mode. It's out in the world, full of promise, full of disappointment. Anthropic's Claude is pushing toward longer context, safer alignment, actual reasoning you could trust for real work. Meta has just dropped Llama 2, supercharging both the open source crowd and commercial players. And in the background, Elon and XAI has formed, but Grok is still months away. Meanwhile, image generation was sprinting ahead. DALL-E 2 moves from invite only to open API. So people who are paying attention to image generation were starting to play with DALL-E 2. Midjourney goes from version 1 to version 5.2 in under a year. And 5.2 was the model that was available when we started the show. And suddenly, aesthetics feels like a command you can type. Stable Diffusion was the image generation model for the open source world. And that was the model behind Leonardo, which became something that we were talking about. And that's the world we launched the show into. Because we could see that the environment that was already starting to roll at a pace that felt like we really wanted to talk about it so that we could keep up. But it wasn't just about the breakthroughs, it was about the way the world was changing. And could we have conversations with each other that would help us and help you all identify anchor points? Right? What is important now? What is important? What's coming? What just happened? And that's the world that we launched the Daily AI Show into. August 7th, 2023, we began, and here we are still keeping pace with the future, with the present, with all of you. Yesterday, GPT-5 dropping, and it feels like things are moving faster, but this is a moment for us to celebrate where we've been, identify where we are, and look forward to where we're going. So, this is the Daily AI Show. I am joined today by Brian Masseri. Yes. No. I'm like, how do I pronounce your name? Just a second. I am joined today by Brian, Junmi Hatcher, and Andy Halliday. And we think that maybe our other co-hosts, Carl and Aaron, may be joining us as well today. So what do you all remember about that first conversation in terms of what we were trying to do with the show, right? Like, what is your dominant, like, memory about that?
I mean, we've talked about it. First of all, happy birthday to you, Beth, as well. Lots of people in the
Oh.
comments are saying happy birthday to you as well. So happy birthday.
Yeah.
Ned, also happy birthday to the show. Glad to still be rocking and roll with you guys 2 years later on this adventure. But to answer
I
your
am
question,
slightly older than 2, actually, so we're just
but we can celebrate both. And let's be honest, we'll talk later about how Sam personally reached out to me and asked, what is the best day for GPT-5? And I was like, you could put it on the 7th. That we the anniversary. We went back and forth. We had a really good discussion. And ultimately he decided that made sense because of the Daily Ad Show. But to answer your question, Beth, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this on the show before at other anniversaries and benchmarks and stuff like that. But just what you said, right? Like I sort of realized as we were all part of the AI exchange, and even circling back, if you just go back to early 2023, 3. So coming out of like when 3.5 came out, DALL-E 2 would come out maybe the week before, something like that. My daughter and I were playing with it. Now you cut forward to November, 3.5, 3 comes out, 3.5 comes out. Then also I'm on TikTok and I see a woman named Rachel Woods on there who's like blowing me away with every single TikTok that she puts out. And I'm like, okay, Rachel knows a ton about this. Then she builds a community. I join the community. I meet all you and some tons of other wonderful people. And in that process of doing that and working with Rachel and standing up the first courses that she had, and then Beth, you and I both teaching for those courses, what really with the through line for me through all of this was, okay, I'm mid 40s at this point, right? I'm 47, so I was 45. This is an inflection point in my career, in my life. I'm sure of this. I've seen this. I've seen hints of this before. I'm old enough to have seen hints of this before with the internet. Um, and I know what this looks like. And I can feel that this is not just some new technology, that this is something that is just going to fundamentally impact the world. And that was, I think a lot of us had that feeling early on. So then what do you do with that overwhelming, really almost debilitating feeling, at least for me? And that was to say, well, the one thing I can control, since I can't control the speed of delivery and technology and all things, the one thing I can control is how much time and effort I put into understanding it deeply. How do I do that? Well, I need to have conversations. I can't do it in isolation. I could try to do it as a siloed thing, but I would be missing so much of it. And, you get one viewpoint of that, which is not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough for me to just have Brian's viewpoint on this. I need to be able to bounce ideas off of people. I need people to tell me I'm wrong and why that's the case or why I'm not thinking about this broadly or whatever. And that for me was the nexus of this show. At its core was, how do I go find people more than just in that community, which was a wonderful community, still exists. But how do I have conversations about this? Not for a weekly show, not for a monthly show, but for a daily show, the Daily AI show. And that name came later. I think Jumi helped with that and stuff like conversation. But as I said before, and I won't rehash the whole story, but it literally was a single post on the Slack community, the AI exchange that says, "Hey, who's nuts enough to wanna talk daily about this?" And I got some responses, and here we are 2 years later with, I mean, 6 of the 7 initial people. The other person we don't have from the early days, there were 7 of us. So it was Robert. Robert has gone on to still doing amazing things and just was super, super busy and just wasn't able to put the time and effort into the show. But we still communicate with Robert and still love him. And, he was one of the initial 7. So now we have, sort of the 6. And I think it's really, really amazing that we're still doing this, 2 years later. I think it's always amazing that we haven't missed a Monday through Friday. That takes a lot of work. A little bit of a pat on the back to all of us because it takes effort. It takes effort to make sure that people are showing up and or we have coverage where it is. People have made sacrifices. People have showed up on vacations. People have, showed up from cars and other locations because we know and we value the conversation and we want to keep it going. And I didn't personally see this happening. I don't know why. I just didn't think about it. Was the great part about it was watching all the people in this and that's showing up in this chat right now. Jen and Cisco and Greg and Jude and all the other amazing people. And I would name all of y'all, but like I'd miss a few names. But I didn't see that coming. I didn't see other people showing up. I thought, "Oh, this will be nice. Me and Jumi and Beth and Andy and Carl and Aaron, we'll have great conversations and Robert early on, and won't that be nice?" And then all these people started showing up saying, "Hey, we wanna be part of the conversation too." And then them having a place to do that, and then you guys starting the community that they can now join. So anyway, that's where my brain was 2 years ago, Beth, was just simply thinking, "Man, if I don't come up with a personal solution to talk and discuss and think openly and critically about AI, it will pass me by." And
Mhm.
that wasn't somewhere I was willing to be at 45 because I still have, traditionally I would still have 20 years worth of full-time work. I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna retire and play golf. So like I'll probably work in some aspect for years to come, but professionally, probably as full-time, probably till I'm 65. So that's 20 years. Well, I've only professionally been working for 25 if you take from college. So it's like you got to make an adjustment, right? And so that there was a pivot point for me. And I just thought, okay, like this has to happen. And it's the best decision I think I've made in a really long time. And I'm just very lucky. You guys answered the prompt and or the prompt, the Slack message and said, "Hey, we think we agree, and we also we think we're crazy enough to jump on, you know." And here we are. It's super fun for me. It's like it's super rewarding.
So, just to clarify, we were prompted, but we were not AI. We answered the call.
Yeah,
Um,
Slack message. Yeah,
and
quite literally
and what
Slack message.
and what you're talking about, Brian, I think our audience, as our audience grows, as people find us, as people start to come into our, lives and community and conversations, that transition that we went through 2 years ago, people are going through right, like, new people are having that same thing, like, "Okay, it seems like a thing I need to know more about AI, I need to know more about, um, what, what I can do. It's time to start listening a little bit more and playing a little bit more." Andy, where were you what is the dominant thing that you're thinking of as we turn to right now?
Well, my retrospective is, uh, in accord with how we formed as a group who focused on this. My retrospective comment is gonna be about what the conversation was really about back then. This was at a time when, the number of companies that were offering wrappers around the then existing, frontier models was an order of magnitude smaller than it is today. But even at that time, it was happening so fast that we couldn't keep abreast of what, was coming out every week, every day, unless we all, served the function of collecting the signals and then coming back and sharing them. One of the main reasons that the AI exchange was useful to me was, I mean, all of us thought about what does it look like now to take this incredible power that's available in a large language model and put it to good use somehow? And maybe even in your entrepreneurial brain, yeah, how do I build something that's going to, be used by other people and that I can actually be the purveyor of? And if you think back to then, what we were all seemingly focused on was chatbots, building your own chatbots. And there was Chatbase and Dante and there are platforms for building these things. I remember I was thinking very hard about whether I was gonna stomach the $250 a month fee to use Vellum, which was an orchestrating platform at the time, very early on. It's gone on to be a major platform for enterprise application development. And so it was all about chatbots. Then we don't you don't really talk anymore about building chatbots, and I'd like to talk about that. Maybe there's a show or a discussion about why is it that we're not building our own chatbots as the initial kind of sort of builder focus that we're doing. Well, in a way, the application work that I've been doing since the advent of a whole new category of services and providers that came about much later, which are these vibe coding platforms that use LLMs to actually generate code for you and build something. You know, pushing you back one step into the sort of the development chain, if you will, instead of having a thing like Chatbase that it lets you just decide what the prompt is that's going to be used in that platform. Instead, building a whole interface of your own using native coding systems that you don't really have to understand in order to use. Um, all so there's been major developments, but if I really rewind, I think back to those days when we were all eager to hear from each other. What is it that you're finding that's
Right.
actually useful? And
Mhm.
and then immediately trying to experiment with that yourself, and maybe even waiting a little bit longer to see if more and more people bought into it. Remember back when there were these lifetime subscriptions that you could buy on, what's the name of that platform? I don't know.
Sumo.
Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think I bought several, a workflow thing called Active Pieces, I bought into another one that was a bot builder, and I've never turned back and looked at those. Why? Because the whole platform space has moved on beyond those kinds of tools. And I don't even know what happened to those companies that we bought lifetime subscriptions to. Maybe they still exist, or maybe they're worthwhile. But that's what I think the major difference is between when we started the show and today. The sophistication of the available tools and models is just mind-blowingly beyond what we were playing with back then.
How many of us have lifetime subscriptions, lifetime chat-based accounts? Because I do.
I did. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of the product. It's
Chat-based.
chat base, I think it was. Yeah. And it wasn't very expensive. I still am not the type to just dump money into it. Like, it was a big deal when I did an annual subscription to Perplexity. But yeah, it wasn't expensive if I remember right, Beth. And
Nope.
they still do exist because I get emails from them, but I have not personally gone in there to check. But yeah, that was sort of the beginning of, hey, there's this RAG thing, and what is RAG and how
Right.
does it work? And it was like that to me, chat base and all them were like the first conversations I was having about, oh, I get it. I can add this AI to documents, or I can add this AI to a database. So it's funny, Andy, you talk about like whether you use them or not, but they all sort of, every bit and piece of it, however big or small, plays a role in that further understanding. And
Yeah.
I don't want to take up more time, but I just want to say I resonate with what you said about, the real value of this. And hopefully for the folks in our listening and watching the show is, you don't have to do it all alone, because there's been 100 times, if not 1,000 times over 2 years, where I have just not gotten to something, or I thought, "Oh, I'd like to know more about that." Currently, that would be like GenSpark, I'll be honest, or Manus. I fully rely on Andy and Carl, and I don't know if Jimmy or Beth, you guys use it, but it's usually Andy or Carl talking about GenSpark or Manus, and I'm like, "Oh, isn't this nice? I can play along, but I don't have to go spend time there." I want to go spend time there. Brian, the AI nerd, wants to go spend time there, but it's just not it's not where I need to be spending my time for work and other things in the show. And I have to like push back from that. But I can still scratch that itch through you guys by hearing what you're saying. And if you said something and I like, oh, that's my use case, Andy just kind of nailed it, then I know I can leap into GenSpark and I can have a conversation with you and say, oh, Andy, okay, I have this idea and you just gave me this, really, now I want to go play in it. But wow, am I saving so much time and energy and my own personal resources by just being able to learn from you guys without actually having to play? Because it would be impossible to play with all the AI tools. I mean, we only scratch collectively, we only scratch probably 20 to 30%, and that might be generous. So it's really helpful. And I just want to say I really resonate with that part of it.
Nice. Nice. My first memory of Carl, and in fact, meeting all of you, I think, was when Carl was uh, giving us the Cliff Notes, although you call it something different in Canada, um, the Cliff Notes version of LangChain, and feeling like, oh wow, that's a lot, right? Like, this is very cool, and you can map it out, and then no, I don't want to do it, right? Like, there was something very exciting about
I
it.
don't know if it's that episode, but that episode is still one of our highest performing episodes of all time as far as YouTube goes, is the LangChain
Mm.
episode. Yeah, it's by far. I don't know why that one clicked or whatever, but yeah, like super techie and super like in the weeds. And
Right.
it just found its little niche audience, man. And that video is done well comparatively. Yeah.
Because it looks really because it's still something that's really important. Chatbots, although it sounds like we've moved on from chatbots are still incredibly useful and a very popular entry level, like, I have a business, I want people to be able to chat with the information in the business experience. Jimmy or Carl, what are your thoughts about, being a show that has turned to now?
Well, I mean, there's lots of thoughts, of course. 2 years of doing production and like you all said, sticking it out for Monday through Fridays, hitting each of those. Um, I think the realization of how much time and effort that goes into it, always resets me, in terms of I always have like lofty goals, right? So it's like I want to do a million things. I want to do a million different things. I think we should turn on a dime and try a whole other thing. But there's only so much time and effort and bandwidth that we can apply to it. So sometimes it's like, okay, you got to pump the brakes a little bit. Not everybody you don't have the bandwidth to actually try everything and do everything and things like that. So it becomes more and more important to have a keen eye of what is truly valuable, right? And I think that's the biggest takeaway for the development of how the show has evolved is the input that we got from our audience. So for me, all the chatters who consistently show up and provide their questions and their ideas and things like that, that's really inspiring kind of motivation is okay, so this does align with some thoughts I had. Okay, so maybe I should explore it some more, so yes, if it wasn't for our audience, I would just be torn in a million different directions, but you're definitely keeping me on track. So thank you. Um, I think over the last 2 years, the show for me has, well, I forget with this conversation, but we had this conversation, I think it was with you, Carl, that said, we won't really know what the show is until we've done it for a while.
Yeah.
And so this is like the 2-year mark, right? So we've done it for a while. Do we know what the show is? And what are our future plans and evolution? So those are the kinds of things that inspire me or provide me motivation for exploring new stuff. Plus, I don't know if it was said yet or whatnot, but having a daily show, while of course it's going to be taxing because it's every single day, it does keep you on your toes. You will always be moving forward and learning more about our particular topic, our niche, AI, and you won't necessarily fall behind, even though everybody is behind. There is always so much you can't know everything, and you gotta be okay with that. So I think the essential service that we provide is to filter and curate and provide that touch of taste to help provide value to our entire audience, and that's I can take a sense of pride in that, knowing that I'm helping other people.
Yeah, and hopefully finding their own paths, right? Like, what may feel like behind or something that I need to focus on for me is different from you guys. We already know that from our conversations, but hopefully anybody else hope listening or watching the show over the last few years, like, I'm with you, Jimmy. It'd be awesome if somebody is like, "Oh, because of the Daily AI show, it helped me focus. I found my passion, and now I work in AI and nonprofits because it enabled me to see the vision of the future." Or maybe people were thinking, "Oh, I don't really see how AI is touching my area." And somehow we had a conversation that sparked an interest, that sparked an idea, and now they're actually working with that. That would be super cool. That would be very, very rewarding to know those. And we don't always get to hear all the stories, obviously, but we do get a lot of feedback from people, and I think that's nice too. Is when people say like, "Hey, your show helped me out," or "I'm an avid listener," or something, and it just sort of pops up in a DM on LinkedIn or something like that. Those are always like fun little moments. Luckily, I have not had any pop up in DMs like, "Hey, I listened to your show and it sucks and you suck," and like, I hate everything about what you guys say. I have not personally seen those, so which is good for my ego. So I've only seen the love, which is nice. I think we do have a really nice community here. You're muted, Beth.
Oh, oh yeah. I think the thing that came to mind was it's just gonna like when we did this, it was more of I'm just gonna ride this out until we either stop or we keep growing. And I was actually thinking we'll probably end up stopping 3 months in. And that's more so because the average content program I've ever worked on usually, for some reason or another, stops.
Mhm.
Just stops because they can't be consistent over and over and over again. They just, I would say 90% of them can't. Um, so, and I thought too, hey, we should do once a week. And that's sort of a default for me because like most people can't even handle like once a week. They
Mhm.
can't, like a lot of businesses can't do it. And it's just really difficult. So for us to be here 2 years in, have very many episodes is pretty. If you think about the statistics on just content programs in general, and let's just even take YouTube. I don't need like I think the stat was, I don't know, I have to double check this, is that if you reach 1,000 subscribers, you're already in the top 10% of all YouTube channels already. And then I think if you're in the 10,000, you're in the top 5% or something like that. So I think it's you can't downplay the just being here today after 2 years is very like, oh, one more stat too. On Apple's podcast, I think this was Apple, but I don't know about Spotify's. I think about of the Heck, however many millions of podcasts there were in Apple's podcast, I think it was 10 or whatever millions it was.
Mhm.
I think 80% only has like 3 episodes. So to even reach 10 episodes, to reach 20 is a significant accomplishment. So again, back to the if you're here at 2 years, yeah, it's the chances are highly likely that you'll get to whatever the goal of the show is. But like,
Right.
yeah, it's a big, big
The
accomplishment
escape
just to be.
velocity, right? Like, we're getting to that point where we're reaching escape velocity, to get there, to get because we've proven it for 2 years, and that's by far the earliest years of marriage are the toughest, right? As you adjust and you figure out what strengths and weaknesses people have, and we've moved roles around internally, behind the scenes and stuff like that, that try to meet our strengths and weaknesses. We've had to move roles around because people got busy or had other things going on, and that all gets adjusted too. I do want to point out what you're saying, Carlo, just to give us a little pat on the back. So I just pulled this up as you were talking. All right, this is from Spotify. So we are now only 5,000 away from being streamed 100,000 times for at least 60 seconds across all platforms. That does not include YouTube. On Spotify alone, we've had over 10,000 of consumed hours of our show. We've been played over 41,000 times on Spotify. We now have almost 2,000 followers on just Spotify. And then if you go over to YouTube, we've had just about 20,000, 19.9. So almost 20,000 watch hours of our show on YouTube. That's across lives, re-edits and replays, as well as the shorts, which we more recently picked back up. But that does add to the consumption hours for sure. We are fast approaching 3,500 subscribers. And it says for views, we've had roughly 350,000 views of our content. And today is episode 525. So the numbers show it, right? I mean, that is a bizarre thing. I don't know if you guys ever stopped and thought about that the idea that somebody somewhere has done almost 100,000 listens or of at least 60 seconds, which is, I mean, we're a 60-minute show. Let's be honest. We didn't start that way, by the way. But we're an hour-long show or whatever. But to think that like there's 100,000 people or there's all these people out there that we've never met who consume our stuff all the time, who we just don't know exist, but they're out there listening in their car or on the train or with their kids, hopefully, because it's a safe show for kids to listen to 99% of the time. And then all the other stuff. I find that to be really amazing, really, really amazing. So anyway, just wanted to share some of the stats that you're talking about, Carl.
In terms of the timeline of development, let me also talk about Carl. When Carl first joined this, he was, a technical expert because he was involved in information technology in a major company in Canada, a company called Benevity that is well known, as a platform for doing cause-related and sort of not, be benevolent, contributions for company employees, in a way for the companies to support, causes, and he was central to their department that was attempting early on to implement AI, inside Benevity, and he, succeeded at that. But his his mission was always to take advantage of the wave of AI and move out and form his own company. And he is one of the few examples I know of, and I'm really proud that our show hosts Carl in his transition from being a corporate employee to being an entrepreneur and CEO of an AI company that has a very big business doing AI transformations in municipalities and small businesses and government in Canada. So we're really lucky to have somebody who's got that much level of distraction, kind of like Brian and Carl, are in demand to the same degree that Robert was, in his respective application of AI in a major consultancy firm. uh, those guys really have AI as the core of their daily work product in significant businesses. And yet they come in here every day, Monday through Friday, and deliver wisdom that's derived from that métier to us. And so thank you both for bringing that. And I also wanted to just shout out to my other colleagues. So Jude, I'm not Jude, sorry, Junmi. They both start with a J. Junmi Junmi brings a realm of knowledge about image and video generation and the media world and the entertainment world that I just don't even scratch. I'm just not involved in that. But like these other ways that you described, Brian, that we get to borrow from, even if we're not
Mhm.
actually practicing it ourselves, we borrow from the knowledge just by being Monday through Friday in conversation with somebody who's in one of those domains. Junmi brings that. And, whenever we get to talking about audio, music generation, or video, and the world of media production and media production for our own show, Junmi is a master at that. And then Beth, I always brag about the fact that you bring a unique perspective that's about the personal interaction with AI and modeling the deep knowledge you have around performance art and especially improvisation and how that dynamic actually informs the best practices in how you need to work with an artificial intelligence assistant. And so we bring really diverse perspectives, and I'm really pleased that it's not just each one of us coming with the same stuff and repeating the same stuff. We all bring a different angle.
Yeah. I mean, back at you too, Andy, right? I mean, how lucky are we to have somebody who has your depth of knowledge and in-person experience in CXO roles and stuff like that? I mean, we always joke when we listen and um who'd you almost work for? Not what was it like it was Disney or you almost
And
worked for
I was offered a senior vice president position at Disney Imagineering.
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that in itself is mind blowing to me. that that like we I get this on the show and it's like, yeah, Andy was almost like upper tier of Imagineering. I mean, I live in Florida, so Imagineering is admittedly probably a bigger part of my life in this Central Florida area. It sort of consumes the area and stuff, but I think it just goes to show too, like when people are like, oh yeah, I did that, or oh yeah, I had that experience or whatever, and I always just think it's really really cool that ditto to everything you said, but also I just want to give you props and say like how awesome it is, to have your level of experience, and we draw on it all the time. Not to leave out Aaron, who couldn't make it today, obviously, but it's so nice to be able to have a different perspective from, out obviously Carl in Canada, but also just another outside of the US perspective. And I think that's vital for obviously AI. And he's always able to give us that like different perspective. He also is like a mastermind when it comes to marketing. So if anybody needs AI in marketing, you should be hitting up Aaron because he's amazing at it. And does really, really cool work there. So we always have that level too. And I don't think any of us necessarily have, I don't want to speak for any of us. I don't think any of us outside of Aaron really has like a specific marketing background. So it's been really, really cool to get his knowledge. And, he's on the other, literally on the other side of the world from me on the East Coast. So it's much harder for him to join because it's the late night hours for him. And I just always appreciate when he's able to make it. And it's always puts a smile on my face. So props to Aaron as well, but he just couldn't be on today's show, but we'll have him back soon.
I think that
Ab-
what makes the show kind of what it is because the different backgrounds of everybody, right? Hey, thanks, Andy, for the for the compliments, but like I think part of our success at 0 to 60 was also like it's part of the early days of all the work our this team did, right? Like this group. I don't know if you all remember I remember the pre-episodes. Like there was actually no recording. It was just like how many of them were there? There was like several of them, I think, that um they were just testing how we work, how we conversed with each other and so on. And you know, taking that and seeing where we are today, and to be curious to see where we are in another 2 years, how that has flowed too. But back to the point, everybody has such a unique experience, and this is where it's like, you know, it's like if we wanna talk about video and entertainment, hey, there's June Me. And then, if we want to look at, and this isn't more so it's like we'll pigeonhole somebody. It's like, hey, we want to talk to Andy about his experience, right? When we start talking about like sales and automations and like technical like use of Salesforce, or in that real realm, we have Beth, and then we have we have Brian for like there's just so many things that you bring to the conversation, which I think is where it's interesting, but where AI is moving, because yes, you could have a conversation purely about the technical aspect of it, right? There are shows for that, like talking about purely just the coding aspect of it. But I think it's important to also, I think it's even more important to talk about like the real life applications of these things. When Brian talks about his impact, like the impact to his daughter, the impact of education, the impact in arts, like it's important to have that, because this thing has that impact, significant impact across the board, not just it's just another tech tool that we're just going to implement. It's like it's not, because it's starting to permeate in everybody's lives, rightly, wrongly, reshaping our entire like outlook and civilization, right? So I think that's, and but having those broad perspectives, we can see or delve into like how the impact of AI is into various fields that only you would have knowledge of. And same with our audience, right? Very different backgrounds. And it's amazing that, when they ask those questions, they're coming at it with a perspective that's unique to them, but just as important, because AI is touching them in that kind of way. Sounds awkward, but it is touching them in that kind of that kind of way.
Absolutely. And I think that in some ways that is my biggest takeaway from these 2 years, is being able to see the lens, see the changes that AI is bringing through the lens of each of our experiences. And that's one of the things that we bring and offer our community, and you all in the community bring it back to us. It's so appreciative. It's so appreciative. I don't even know if that's a sentence. We appreciate it so much, and it's so important as, like a barometer for us to understand, because again, we're doing this every day. And so there is, by the very nature of doing it every day, there are blind spots that we're going to have just because we're so in it. And the idea that you guys are this great feedback mechanism and environment, it's so lovely, and thank you so much. I don't know if you've been watching, but people have been tipping us, and that's amazing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That
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 is-
is that's always it blows my mind, and thank
Yeah.
you very much. I don't even know if have words for how cool that is, and showing that love.
That is very cool.
appreciation.
Yep.
I will comment though, Jen. I'll make you a deal. I will release the pre-show episodes.
Negative. Negative. No, he won't.
In the community, for only the community members, if you can help us reach 10,000 subscribers and
Ooh.
1,000 community members. You do that, and the whole community can see our terrible, terrible pre-show episodes and
Come on.
and
Come on,
That's a lot of work, Jen.
Why do you even need to put that up there? I will echo though. I don't know about that. I'm not supporting that. But I will say, I do want to talk about not only just the amazing tips, but just our amazing community. And literally today, I mean, just so some of the things that I want to point out, and I want other people who are listening to this hopefully to be inspired to come join the live show community. If you can, obviously, you have to be available. We understand that. But if not, obviously, the Slack community, you can go to the dailyishowcommunity.com to join that community. So if that's the first you're hearing about that, that's how you do it. It's a Slack community, it's free. But I'm talking about the folks that are right now live on the side of my screen as for the show runner that we use. It's literally shows up on the side of the screen. We can also see it on YouTube as well. And so YouTube sort of became the de facto easiest way for people to join us live. And so that's why we tell people, hey, if you want to be part of the conversation live, go to YouTube and do that, versus like LinkedIn would really be the only other way. And you can't answer comments on it. It's kind of a mess over there. So YouTube is definitely the easiest. But what I love, and like, this is why I love you guys, because they're joking about like, hey, can we talk about the inside jokes? I don't even know if we have enough time in this show to cover all of them, but just know that we have such a cool community that oftentimes somebody will either have a flub on the show. I don't know, maybe me with not being able to say a word or, or pronounce a word. And I get self-conscious about it and then I mess it up anyway. Or, something triggers them and then we will laugh even as the show is still going on. You even may see one of us kind of do like, if you see one of us kind of like looking off to the side and we start smirking, but it has nothing to do what the conversation is on the screen, it's because we are laughing at the comments. Because what is ultimately happening is our comment section will take a left turn at Albuquerque and they will go off on the tangent that delves into your mom jokes, then takes a turn out of that and goes somewhere else, and they're all cracking each other up. And then we're reading the comments and going, wow, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about on this go at people. And then somehow it'll trigger and come back again. And it's like, oh, they're back. Like somebody had a comment about something we were actually saying on the show. And it makes me laugh because I think like I love the fact that people are so comfortable in there. It's such a welcoming community of folks in there. Led, by the way, props are due to Jen. Jen is the number one original OG fan of the show. And so props to Jen, because somebody else said, either Gareth or Greg said, I think the live chat is a big part of your exponential growth. 100%. Whoever said that a little while ago. So it went by so fast, I missed it. 100%. There's no doubt about it that your guys' live chat absolutely has a direct correlation to the more people catching the live. We know, we can see the analytics on the side. So when we say a like or a comment or a thumbs up is good, so is the live chat. And the more active that is, and we've watched that grow over time. It wasn't something, like I said, I was even thinking about when we started the show, but as that's grown over time in the live chat, you guys are absolutely driving new traffic to the show. I mean, we can see the analytics. I mean, it's super important. As a matter of fact, right now we get just about equal amount of new subscribers from shorts the live show and the repost of the live show, which is slightly edited usually. Better audio, we fix audio levels, we chop out some stuff, but it's mostly the same show. But it's almost a 30-30-30 right across the bow there. So it's hugely influential to the growth of the show. So I just want to make sure I say thank you again to everybody in chats. The tips are very much appreciated, very nice, and never expected. But I just love that you guys are here. Like, that's what means more to me, is that you just keep showing up day in and day out with us. You're vital. You're vital. And I cannot wait till we're at a point where we go, guess what, guys? 9 months from now, we're all going to do our best to get together in this city. And if you want to come hang out in person, we'd love to see and meet everybody. And hopefully that's something we can do, and pick a place and just celebrate the show and everybody that's been around with us. That might be more like
I also want to acknowledge. Oh, hang on. I'm
Yeah.
live, right?
You're good. We can.
I want to acknowledge the members of the daily chat crew, let's call them, who make significant contributions to the more technical discussions that we do sometimes entertain here. And I just, like off the top of my head, like you've got Greg, Gareth, Justin, Cisco, Gwyn. The comments that they leave in there aren't necessarily, they also get involved in the comedic repartee. Believe me, they're definitely contributors there. But when we're getting deeper into more technical discussion, they ask questions and they make commentary that really advances the discussion. And we read those comments carefully in the show, while we're in the show. And it's a little bit heavier lift for us to actually add that comment to show on the live stream, but we do that as well. So I just want to acknowledge all of you who really think deeply about this. There's a number of others who come in less frequently, but those people that I mentioned are here almost every day and really are involved in AI and understand AI. Hopefully we've been able to give them back some knowledge from our collective wisdoms about it, but they're also contributing to my understanding of the deep issues that we discuss.
And we also know, because of some shows that we've done and comments that we receive, that there are so many of you who are also daily listeners or regular listeners that we don't know your names because you're not showing up in our chat. But we appreciate you, and it's so lovely if you have time to reach out and let us know what's hitting for you. Show ideas. We did a show idea from a listener suggestion yesterday.
Yep.
This is all of our journeys, right? And that's just an important thing to touch base with each other, but also with all of you.
I remember someone else whose perspectives I think are very interesting, and that's Delma. Delma McConnell. I don't think she's on the stream today, but yeah, I just wanted to mention her because that's another name that pops to my recollection.
And thanks, Gwyn, for pointing out that you enjoy watching the big announcements together too. I mean, obviously you guys did that yesterday. I didn't get a chance to watch you guys, but man, you guys must have been on for a while because it was like over an hour long and then trying to talk about it and all that. But Delma was summoned, Jen said. Oh, Delma's here. That's awesome. You said Delma and Delma's like, I am here. Jen's like, Delma was summoned. That's amazing. But what I was going to say, welcome Delma too. But I was just going to say that thanks, Gwyn, for pointing that out because that's the kind of feedback that's exactly right. Like we think like, oh, it'll be fun to just do live. We sort of started that around the 12 days of OpenAI, I think, and maybe we were doing it before December, but that's when we really were doing it. Like we were playing along or whatever. But thank you for saying that because that's the kind of feedback that helps us and go, oh, you know what? That is the audience kind of likes us. We've had people ask us for 2 and 3 and 4 hour shows, and there's got to be our time and what. Yeah, I always say it's going to end up like the Today Show, where there's the 6 a.m. hour, the 7 a.m. hour, the new hosts come in for the 10 a.m. hour. And I always push back and go, you guys will never edit those shows if we'll only ever be able to do live because like the shows would be 17 gigabytes. I mean, I would definitely not be like at my limit of what I could do and stuff. So there are some issues with that. But yeah, thank you. And keep the comments in the conversation going back about what you do and don't like. Topics, how we explain things. Do you like the deep dives? Do you like the nerdy stuff? When we get into LangChain or we like pick one particular tool and we're like, let's go all in on this tool. I mean, we can see the analytics and we can kind of see what bumps and what moves the needle a little bit here or there, and we pay attention to that. We've adjusted our format. That's something we could talk about. Like, we aren't exactly the same show we set out to be. We've changed the way we do some Friday shows based on kind of like what we like. We realize that sometimes we have like more fun sometimes when we do the off the cuff, hey squirrel type stuff. I know people, Jimmy, I think you started it on one of the news shows, but the pivot shows where we try to pivot off of every other thing the last person said. And
weave. Yeah, don't
the
forget
weave. Yeah, it's not the pivot, but the weave. I have a weave off of this or I have a weave off of that. So I feel like that could be its own theme of a show sometimes because it makes it fun and like you have to sort of think on your feet about, I don't know, Beth, you're way more equipped for that with your improv background. But the yes and part of it and the weave. But it's fun and it makes the show different. And I think that's what's special about it is we're not trying to pretend to be anything but our unique selves and it's about putting our personalities out there, not trying to be something that we think others necessarily want to see us do. So when we mess up live. If we're wrong, okay, we're wrong and we'll fix it. And so you're sort of along for the ride with us as opposed to us, I think, trying to give you some highly edited, produced, clipped, only the highlights type of thing. Cause I don't really think that's how you learn or how you become part of a community if you're always clipping things or whatever. So I do like the rawness of it. And honestly, doing it 5 days a week, I'm not quite sure we could do it any other way. So
Yep.
it has to be this way.
So we're just about at the top of the hour, and I want to honor people's time. Yesterday, GPT-5 dropped, and GPT-5 dropped a very different GPT than it was when we started. So, we're gonna do a deeper dive in GPT and other shows next week, but what is your like, how does that if we're looking at that as the framework, and the way that I would frame it from my perspective is that we seem to have tipped with GPT-5 into the place where things that you used to do overtly, like pick a different model that was going to give you some other kind of feature, deeper thinking, like those kinds of things. Deeper thinking, no, I just want like the mini version of the answer. Those are now pushed toward APIs if you still wanna do that, and now we just have one model that is deciding for us. And I, would love to hear just quick from you all if there is something about that shift that mirrors what's happening or doesn't mirror what's happening for you in AI, these days.
Yeah, there was an evolution of models. It started out with just a unitary model that was designed to do predictive text responses to a prompt, and that focused us all on really careful, detailed prompts to try to package all of the necessary requirements into that payload, deliver that to the one model, and see how that model performed. And the major developer companies, the ones that are building the frontier models, were focusing on improving the range and capacity of knowledge by increasing the training data volume and the compute applied to the pre-training of the models. And then we got mixture of experts, which changed the game on the model side because it became more efficient. You could send your prompt in, and the model would decide which portion of the expert representations inside the model would be called, and only a subset of the parameters would be activated in response to a prompt. But now we get to a mixture of models. And what you have is on top of these multiple models that OpenAI has ganged together, inside GPT-5, you have a router that makes a reasoned decision based on what you ask it to do, which doesn't have to be a really detailed prompt anymore. It's much more agentic in the respect that it'll figure out what you want based on a much more compact and not so precise input as here's what I want you to do model. And then it'll generate in the router section, it'll generate a plan about how that will work and decide which of the models within its orchestration range is going to be called upon and what degree of thinking is going to be applied to that. So a lot of the understanding and deliberate programming, if you will, of model selection and prompt development and evaluation has now been removed from your requirements. You have in GPT-5 a very capable, responsive model that's going to do a lot of that lifting for you.
Just to
Interesting.
respond, Andy, like I don't know if everyone has this. You can turn back on your legacy mode, and you have all
What?
the models.
Oh, that's
I
interesting. I thought they were going to deprecate that. That was
I
what was
didn't
part of the
know.
announcement yesterday. But maybe that's temporary. You know,
I
'cause they're defaulting to GPT-5 now, but you can also go back to any of the models that pre-existed, right?
Yeah. I I don't know if it's the but
Is it
there
a
is
pro thing, Carl? Is it only for pros? I don't know.
I will go check really quick.
Carl's our
do-
pro.
all I do is go to my settings and then it's like show legacy models and I turn that on and then all the legacy models are up
Are there? Okay.
are there.
I mean, it makes sense from a UX point. Maybe not for the free if they're trying to force everybody to now live in GPT-5, but makes sense for any of the paid or premium tiers. But we'll see. I haven't gotten enough time with GPT-5 yet to see if this part of GPT-5 is also training their audience or training their customers to use this technological path. So yeah, so a lot of that comes with any new technology is training your users how to use it and how you want them to use it and things like that. But to answer your question, Beth, for me, it's world models. We've heard them, mentioned off and on for the last couple of years, especially the research that Llama does, and what he's talking about as a shift from concentrating on LLMs. But world models, I think, with the release from like two major um, developers, one being Google's recent Genie 3 and what they're showing off there as a jumping off point, right? And what we've been keeping an eye on from the world model development that Runway's been doing, um, and the release of Aleph and Gen 4 and Act 2, those are all just specializations based off of their world model approach. So though I think world models as a whole is really seeing um, the races started. We're going to see better and better. This is sort of like for me, I think this is the launching off point. This is the ChatGPT 3.5 and off to the races for that development. And you're just going to see better and better stuff come out of the world models and how they will then be integrated in embodied AI, autonomous vehicles, and then of course, world building on the narrative and visual storytelling side, which is, of course, the element that I most enjoy.
Just let me just make the distinction between model when we speak about a deep neural network and the world model that is created by a system that may not even be a transformer. I don't know what the Google world model generator in what is it, Genie 3?
Genie 3, yeah.
Genie 3. I'm not even sure what the architecture is of that because again, I don't pay much attention to the whole visualization side of this thing, and in images and video. but world modeling, 3D modeling in effect that respects physics has been a part of virtual reality for a long time. And now it's happening in AI, and with the ability then to generate really navigable and sort of virtual environments that are built in seconds, that can be responsive to your actions within that world. And so there's this convergence of AI and virtual reality that's important. And I think, yes, world models are going to be a big thing on this area that Junmi focuses on.
I know we're short on time, so I'll just say really quick because I know we're going to talk deep dive about ChatGPT 5 next week. So that's all coming and it'll have its own show, as you said, Beth. I will say I'm not the only one, but I am disappointed in ChatGPT 5 at the moment. I realize it's early and I have not had a chance to dig into everything. But here's what I would say. I posted this on LinkedIn this morning. It took me maybe 30 prompts, and I mean in a conversation, and I was like, no, there's problems here. And my point to it is, if me, just a typical user, I mean, I understand what I'm doing with AI, can quickly understand that there was some broken thinking in terms of how it selects the right model and how it gets it wrong often. And then once I already had posted on LinkedIn, started seeing posts by Ethan Mollick saying, yeah, people are upset about this on Reddit and other places. He mentioned, I didn't validate this. He mentioned that there were OpenAI employees on X actually acknowledging that there was a problem with the router, that, as you called it, Andy. And I don't understand how this gets through red teaming. You want to put all the bar charts. By the way, they screwed up one of the bar charts on their live from a few about it, about hallucinations. They screwed up their own bar chart on hallucination. Talk about human feedback in the loop. And you want to tell me all these great things about coding and how it's better than Claude, and you want to push and push and push and coding. And that's great. I love that. I love that I can build a game of Tetris in it. But you know what I really want? I want ChatGPT 5. If you're going to take away all my other models, it better be damn good at figuring out what the right model is to use so I don't have to. And Gareth or Greg pointed it out. ChatGPT 5 makes me work harder, not the opposite way around. I have to work harder to prompt it to tell it how I want it to come across with the answer. And honestly, that pisses me off. That is what they gave me as the solution. Now, maybe you could say, hey, Brian, you're a super user, or you understand it and you knew how to use the other models, and this simplifies things. And maybe it does for the common user. I get that it needed to happen, but this one to rule them all thing, if you're not going to do it right, you're not going to route it correctly, that upsets me. Maybe my opinion will change on that next week, but that's where I am right now.
Yeah. I think I remember, and has been in the back of my mind the entire time when they talked about the router thing. It's like, if you are regularly, you just use it as is, like a lot of our clients just use like whatever the models are and you use it. They will experience a big leap. No questions. I'll know they will especially big leap. But the thing is, I was thinking is like, well, what if I'm so used to using O3. I don't even use 4.0. And my experience with this is I don't even use GPT-5. I'm using thinking. I'm like, forget. I'm not touching that because my mind's already like, oh, I'll just keep using thinking. But again, I'm using Pro. You only have so much thinking things. And the whole point of this was that, with 5, it'll automatically think. But I was like, could we trust any of the AIs to understand our intent of where we want our thing to do well enough that it will automatically do it? And I was like, no, it's impossible. I was by default, my thinking was like, no, I would never trust any system like that, which is why I was like, it's kind of curious that not all of you, or they didn't leave all the models for power users. Be like, hey, whether if you want to use GPT-5, cool. But if you don't, just keep going back to O3. Like, here's everything for you as the power user because you know how to use it. For everybody else who honestly won't even go into the models, they'll just be like, oh, it's 4, now it's 5. Sounds good. It'll be that. But I think that's what's taking a lot of people off is like, oh, I don't have access to everything that I used to do. You've changed my workflow. And it's kind of interesting too, where this is what we're dealing with is when you change something, oh my God, everybody gets mad. And I remember I was like, AI introduction into a company to make you change your workflow. Everyone, there's a kind of weird, your brain just is like, no, I'm used to doing what I'm doing. Why do I have to change it? When I see this, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what's happening here because they just revamped the entire thing, right? So very interesting how this is played out too. And kind of, I remember I was like, when Sam Altman said, "Hey, we're gonna switch the models." It's like, nah, I hope they have the power users can change whenever they want because that doesn't make any sense. And here we go.
All good points. I still don't have GPT-5.
I was just about to say that. It's
Really?
like, I don't have to worry about that experience because I still have all of my old models because
I don't on my Plus. I only have it through all my Teams accounts for clients and stuff like that. That's where it showed up. I don't have it on my Plus account though, my personal one.
I have it on Plus.
Yeah, not yet. Just in my Teams.
But
And I
I don't have the ability to.
Brian already said he talked to Sam or Sam talked to him about the perfect birthday gift that you got GPT-5 early. Yeah. The rest of us,
Then can I ask that I have the legacy model turn on thing under settings? Because if you have to pay $200 for a month for that, that is not fair.
It's a good point, and you might be right about the pro thing because maybe the assumption is, well, you would only be paying that much if you do want the ability to turn back to other models. I don't have that, by the way. That setting is not in the Teams chat. I checked a bunch of them, and any of them that have 5, I don't have the opportunity to turn back on legacy models or make them available to me. So it could just be a pro thing. I'm not quite sure. It also could be something that's not part of Teams. So I'm not really sure where that lands as far as an answer. But hey, much more to come on this.
Well, I'm not going to take it personally because there's 700 million. They're having provisions.
I mean, come on. We know a guy who knows Sam, so Brian.
I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Sam are we talking about here? It's like this Sam is like Sam Stone from Alberta. Like, oh yeah, I know Sam.
Yeah.
This could also be
Yes,
something that
first name basis. Elon,
they,
Ethan, Sam.
yeah, Dario. So you don't have to say.
Oh, that is not Elon Musk. When Elon, that is not Elon Musk. So it's like, oh, that guy? Yeah, he knows he's an idiot. Don't talk to that guy.
Okay, well, that seems like a good note to end on.
Wrap up.
Because we are so happy to be here with you all, and we will be here next week. There is no sci-fi AI show today. We're hoping that we have one for you next week. And have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
Aloha.